door that we open. Following from behind, we can hear him. There is no place for playtime. Avoid them all from every side. Better to leave him be. Follow his philosophy. This is how we live our life, searching for the answers inside of every page. And I'm here wondering if one day we'll finally be free from this cage. Is it okay to have a feeling that maybe there is more to this game? However, now just keep behaving. What are you doing? Sweep through the halls to escape. We'll have some sacrifices. No room for jealousy. I've got no time to play hide and seek. 'Cause eventually he'll surely find me. Have to be brave or better keep behaving. Count till I don't know what counts. Every inch of fear is all that's ingrained. Can understand what's the solution. The problem is a mess in my brain. I'm pushed around with all the pressure to be here when I don't wanna stay. There's gotta be some sort of exit to get away.
People have been asking me to cover the Basics in Behavior Red animation, so in this video, I'm going to summarize what's happening in the story, explain why it's happening, and give you some fun facts about all the characters. Now, as I'm sure you all know, this animation is based off Katie's original animation called The Fundamental Paper Education. This version is the Danger alternate universe and takes place 3 years after the events of the original Basics in Behavior. But instead of being in a regular school, everyone has been relocated to a military school. And as you can see, almost immediately, Abby is alive. Now, apparently, in this universe, after Miss Circle, Miss Thavel, and Miss Bloomy went on their rampage, Principal Grace actually got them arrested and sent to prison. But soon after that, she got word from a military general that war was upon them and that she would need to create a fighting force. So she decided to open up a new military school, get the 3 teachers out of prison, and recruit her old students for the war. And I don't really know how, but students like Claire, Abby, and Lana have all been resurrected. But even though they're all at war with some unknown enemy, things are not all that different at this new school. We see this in the opening scene when Abby is walking down the hall and looking at the starboard, which seems to track the achievement of students. And honestly, I'm not surprised to see that the bullies are doing well in this wartime. And I guess if I'm being honest, I'm equally not surprised to see that Engel is also like a top student here. I'm sure we all remember how he went toe-to-toe with Miss Circle, even if it was only for a moment. But the important part about this scene is that Abby ended up getting 0 points, meaning that not only did he perform the worst, but he really didn't perform at all. And to my surprise, the teacher that seemed to be the most upset about this was Miss Bloomy, which if you remember the original animation, she seemed to be the one that was most reluctant to harm children out of the 3 mean teachers. But in this new universe, she's become much more violent and is even like an assassin that specializes in taking out students that are underperforming, which is why we see her actually chasing Abby down. Now, the second big surprise for me was seeing that Miss Circle seemed to be shocked that Bloomy was hunting down this kid. It seemed like prison also changed her and made her a bit kinder towards not only the children, but to people in general. And I also think that if she or if any of the other teachers hurt the students, Miss Grace will probably punish them all and possibly even send them back to prison. But judging by the fact that Bloomy shoots Abby in the hand, I think it's safe to say that she doesn't care about her freedom as much as Miss Circle does. And a scary fact here is that the only reason that Abby is able to survive Miss Bloomy is because she has the personality of a cat. And what I mean by that is that she likes to stalk her prey and play with it before she actually takes it out. And this is why she shoots Abby in the hand instead of just going for the headshot. If Miss Circle wouldn't have tackled her, she would have just played with her food for a long time before actually putting him down. And if we're being honest, I think the only reason this actually worked out is because Miss Circle is the strongest out of the people in here, except for maybe Alice. I don't think anybody else would have been able to actually get Bloomy. Something else that I found interesting about this scene is that Miss Circle has kind of taken the role of Ingle, or at least Ingle in the original animation, meaning that she has turned into like a kind of protector for the kids. And while I don't think that she's doing this out of the goodness of her heart, but rather because she just wants to stay free, it is still pretty cool to see her be a good guy for once. Now, with that being said, after Abby escapes, we cut over to a scene of Alice walking down the halls. And for people wondering why Miss Grace allowed Alice to come to the new school, I honestly think it's because she couldn't easily stop her from joining. Meaning that they likely could stop Alice if they all banded together and attacked her, but they would still probably lose people, and I don't think they can afford to do that in wartime. So Miss Grace probably just thought that it would be better to try and use Alice's strength against the enemies, which we learn is a obvious mistake because Alice is up to no good here. As you can tell by the sign in this scene, Alice is going after some type of nuclear weapon because the only reason that she joined the school in the first place is so that she could gather more power for herself. And just a fun fact, the person that Alice ends up clawing here is actually Claire, and while she doesn't take her out like in the original animation, it is kind of sad and also a little bit funny that even in this alternate universe, Alice is still piecing up Claire for no reason. Now, something that I really loved about this animation though is that the teachers and the principal are actually standing on business this time. And we see this when Miss Grace takes a shot at Alice. And while we don't know what she's actually going to do now that she has this remote control, which I assume gives her like the ability to control some type of nuclear weapon, we can assume that she's not up to anything good because it's Alice. Now that we covered the main lore, let's look at some of the side characters and just some of the fun facts in the animation. And the first thing that I want to note is that while we don't get to see many signs of a war going on, we do get a small glimpse during this clip. We see this military plane flying overhead here, and the way that the night sky is kind of lit up makes it seem like there's a fire in the distance or maybe some type of explosion going off. And I think this may be why you see this kid here kind of looking out into the distance. Next, I want to point out Miss Thavel and the reason why she didn't really play as big of a role in this animation. It seems like after spending 3 years in prison, she's no longer friends with Miss Circle or Bloomy, which is why she doesn't actually follow them around and terrorize children anymore. She has also gone a bit crazy, which is kind of a weird thing to say because she's actually nicer now that she's kind of losing her mind. And just to add on top of that, she's also like an explosive expert now. So she basically spends most of her time now teaching children how to deactivate bombs, or she's like sniffing gunpowder and talking to her grenades. Oliver is pretty much the same as always, meaning that he's still like a rule breaker and he's also still deeply in love with Alice. What I find interesting about him though is that he only has one eye in this universe, and apparently he lost it because of Alice. And while we don't have a lot of details into like what happened there, now that we know that Alice was basically here just to get the nuclear device, it almost feels like she was using Oliver just for her own games, which is kind of sad when you think about it. As for Miss Sasha and also Mr. Demi, they both became basically like military mechanics. Sasha is a more like traditional mechanic, basically just fixing broken equipment and like keeping vehicles up, while Mr. Demi is also a sapper, which means that he basically teaches students how to locate mines and bombs in general. Ingle and Miss Emily didn't get a huge part in this animation, but it seems like they're both medics, which makes sense for both of them in my opinion. While we didn't get to see a whole lot of Miss Emily in the original animation or in this one, she did seem really friendly, so I kind of see her being a medic, and Ingle was always trying to help people, so I kind of see him being a medic too, just because he was so friendly as well. A big change for Miss Circle in this universe is that she now teaches students how to be like safe in the war zone and also how to be leaders. And of course, she still is like a super lover of Oreos. Zip and Edward haven't changed a lot in this new world, but I did find it interesting that Zip's brother is banned from the school. I think it's because he was like blowing stuff up, but I could be wrong. Claire and Abby don't have a lot of new interesting facts as well, but one thing that does stand out about them is how dark their nicknames are. And it seems like a few people in this universe call them the Walking Dead. And I assume this has to do with the fact that both of them ended up being dead in the original animation. But anyhow you cut it, that's kind of like a crazy nickname, mad disrespectful. But with that being said, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out this video on the screen here. Subscribe today to become a member of the Ors Force, and we'll see you tomorrow with another one. Peace, peace. People have been asking me to cover the lore behind the Fundamental Paper Education series, so in this video, I'll share the information I was able to gather thus far and my theories for what's happening in this world. So as of right now, there's only one episode in this series, which is one of the main reasons people are so surprised by the fandom that has emerged from the animation. Even more so because all of the characters are OCs, or aka original characters. So the creator of this animation, whose name is Katie, has accomplished something that is just a pipe dream for many small animators. Now, when this animation starts, we're introduced to the protagonist of the series, who is named Claire, or at least I think she's the protagonist, even though she bites the dust by the end of the animation. Now, in her backstory, we learn that she is technically a new student at this school, which is called the Paper School. And I don't know who she ticked off to get sent to this place, but it seems like a bit of a harsh environment for some 15-year-olds. And I know there is some confusion around the ages of a lot of the characters here, but this looks like a high school, so I think it's safe to assume that most of them are like teenagers for the most part. As you can see in the animation, she seems to be a good student who is hardworking. The first issue arises though when we see these three students bullying her, and those being Zip, Edward, and Oliver. And from my understanding, these three are like the teacher's favorite students, which may not seem like a big deal at first, because when you think about it, we all know, or maybe some of you have been teachers' pets before. And being a teacher myself, I've had students that kind of fell into that role. But this animation takes it to a whole nother level. And this is when we are truly introduced to Miss Circle. And if you are like me, you were probably not expecting her to be a murderous monster. But as she chases down a student named Abby, it became clear that she is after blood. And when she catches him, she gets just that. But she even takes it one step closer and she eats the young man after beating him to death. And this all happened because he failed a test. And I'm pretty sure this guy is only around 15 or 16 years old, which makes his death very tragic. Now, while Abby was getting chased, a character named Lana saw him and decided to follow, and actually witnessed Miss Circle devour him. Or I guess more accurately, take a bite out of him. And while we don't get to see until later in the animation, Miss Circle also takes out Lana as well. And something that a lot of people didn't notice is that Lana has two sock puppets on her hand, and since we know that the creator of this series is a fan of the Baldi's Basics series, I think it's safe to say that Lana's character is a reference to a character called Arts and Crafters from the Baldi series.
What the freak is that? Oh, it's a sock. Hey, what the freak?
Now, before I move on, I want to give a few facts about Miss Circle. The first being that she is 38 years old and also has the ability to change her size, although her height in the animation is 9 feet 7 inches. And for all the people that are wondering why all the kids are kind of simping for this grown, very tall woman, I would like to direct you to another big girl that the internet sent for. Does this lady look familiar to you?
You ungrateful, selfish wretch! You come into my house!
And I'm sure you all remember this scene.
This right here is my favorite thing ever in the history of forever.
Another fact about Miss Circle is that the weapon that she uses is called a compass. If any of you are taking geometry class, you are probably familiar with this tool. And it makes sense that she would be using it considering that she is the math teacher. I also found it kind of funny that she has a set of classroom rules, but half of them are ridiculous. One even says no breathing in her class. The one piece of good news though is that she apparently loves Oreos, so if kids give her some of those, maybe that'll keep her from ripping them apart. Now, after that scene, we see Miss Circle walking with 2 other teachers. The teachers with the ABC blocks on her head is named Miss Davel, and as I'm sure you've already guessed, she is the language teacher at the school. And the teacher on the other side is named Miss Bloomy, and she is the science teacher, which is why she has that scalpel in her hand or forehand. And as far as we know, Miss Bloomy is around 36 years old, while Miss Davel is 35 years old. And just like Miss Circle, these teachers are also murderers, but they don't seem to have the ability to change their height like Miss Circle does. In the next scene, we see the students are in like a PE class, and they are all around the pool. And this is the first time that the school actually looks somewhat peaceful. The worst thing that happens is like the bullies are actually splashing some people. There are also a few minor characters here that pop up. The first one being Ruby, who is this humanoid figure with like a TV forehead. And funny enough, it kind of gives me like Skibidi Toilet vibes. But as far as we know about this character is that she is like a peacekeeper who just wants all the students to get along. This guy right here that has the bendy haircut is named Skell, and he is described as being kind of an introvert, which is probably why he's sitting away from the other students. I also find it interesting that the name Skell actually means to be like a tramp or homeless. So maybe this kid just isn't an introvert, but actually is just homeless and is struggling with that. Something else that I found interesting about this character particularly is that he's one of the only ones that I saw that has a tail and also has wings. So I'm curious to see if he has a bigger role in later episodes. Next, we see 2 people sitting by the pool. The first one being a rabbit girl named Petunia, and her friend is named Lizzie. And these 2 are considered to be like the popular girls at the school who come off as nice, but if you kind of tick them off, they do have a mean streak. This is also the second time that we've seen this student here named Ingle, who even now seems like a nice kid, but towards the end of the animation, he really proves that he's a good person. We also see this character here who is named Bubble, and if I'm being honest, I have no idea what she is. She almost looks like she's made out of bubbles or like soap foam. And when I saw the stars in her eyes, I thought this was like the creator trying to show us that maybe she has a crush on Ingle. But then when I looked at her actual character sprite, it seems like this is how she looks all the time. So maybe it's just her design. And the last character that I want to point out in the pool scene here is going to be this little guy on the boat. Apparently this is Zip's little brother, and it's kind of cool to see that even though Zip is a bully, she seems to like her brother and even takes time to hang out with him and play with him at school. So while I still don't think that she's a good character, I suppose that she isn't a complete monster. In the next scene, we see the kids in the library, and this is where we see Claire and Ingle start to become good friends. And just to point out, I don't think that these 2 are in love or anything like that. When I was looking at Katie's Twitter, it seems like she doesn't really like shipping of her OCs, especially Alice, but I guess that doesn't mean that shipping won't occur later. But as a fandom, we should really keep that in mind because we've seen how shipping can go from being kind of cute to just being weird. We all remember ships like Mordecai x Rigby, or if we really want to get weird, the Pinecest ship, which is basically shipping 2 twins. So please, let's not go down that route. Now, back in the animation, we see that the bullies recognize that Claire and Ingle are getting closer, and they hate that for whatever reason. So they go get a drone that is capable of picking up people and do just that to Claire, dropping her into a hole that just happens to be in the school, I guess. And this is where the animation really starts to get interesting, because we see Zip go to the door that says Alice's room, do not enter. And when we get to peek inside, we see that Alice seems to be some kind of demon or monster with red eyes and long claws that she drags across the wall. During this scene, we also see Miss Circle say that students should not open Alice's door